Hi. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to bake perfectly level flat cakes. So you know how normally cakes, when you bake them, they rise with a dome at the top and the outsides of your cake can be really dry and brown and crusty and not as nice as the middle, the inside of the cake. So I want to show you how to avoid that and just get really nice not dry cakes that you don't have to cut before you ice them. So you start off with lined tin. So I'll pop a link in the comments on how to properly line any size of cake tin. Then the next thing you'll need is also you need to make sure you've got some nice good quality tins, because that will help distribute the heat evenly. Then the most important thing that I use are these bake even strips or baking strips. So you can buy them from cake shops. I think Wilton's has some, but I like the ones off eBay more, to be honest. They work really well. So it's just a type of fabric that you soak them in water and then you wrap them around the cake. So I'll show you in a little while, and it just slows down the cooking process and keeps the outsides from drying out, and then you get that dome. The other thing that I use is a baking nail, or you can use a heating core, but if you use a proper heating core, it's quite big and you'll have like a hole in the middle of your cake. So a flour nail works really well. It just looks like a big thumbtack. So what you do with this is you have your lined tin and then you put this right in the middle, right there, and you can see the heat from your tin will get distributed to this little metal bit, and it will help the heat go from the inside to the outside. So why you get a dome on your cake is when you have this in the oven, the outside of your tin obviously heats up and the cake starts baking from the outside to the inside. So your outside will bake first and the inside will keep rising as it starts to cook. So with the baking strips, it just slows the whole process down. So the whole cake, every bit of it bakes sort of at the same time, if that makes sense, instead of the outside baking first and then the heat sort of going through the batter towards the inside. And then you also have this distributing the heat from the inside to the outside. So you've got the heat coming from both sides. The other important thing is where the rack in your oven is placed. So every oven is different and you need to get to know your oven, and a good way to do that is to bake lots of cookies, because you don't use a lot of ingredients. They're nice and quick and easy to make, and you can put them on different cookie sheets or baking trays and place them at the bottom, see what happens, place them in the middle, see what happens, place some at the top, see what happens. And you will also see which cookies, the ones in the back or the ones on the left, which ones brown faster, and that will show you where the hot spots in your oven is. So with my oven, my cakes, I place the rack as low as it will go. If I place the rack higher, it gets too much heat from the top. So even though a lot of recipes say place the cake in the middle of the oven, I honestly prefer the bottom. It works best for me. So placing the rack in the bottom, using good tins, lining them with baking paper, using these bake even strips and the flour nail, I get cakes that are perfectly level. Another thing that I'll tell you is when you test if your cake is done, I find that a wooden skewer works better, because if you buy those really cute metal ones with the little cupcakes or flowers or whatever on the top, they look cute, but sometimes they come out clean just because they're so non-stick that even if the cake is not baked, they still come out clean. Whereas with a wooden skewer, if it's not baked, then it won't come out clean. So they're more trustworthy. So I recommend using wooden skewers. Okay, I'm going to pause this, get my baking strip so I can show you how to wrap your cake, and then that's it. Let's see if I can pause this. Okay, so again, you'll use a lined tin. You can see the other video on how to do that. Then you will have your wet baking strip. So what you would do is just don't put them on soaking wet, because it will drip all over your oven. So I always just squeeze out the extra water over the sink, obviously. And then you really just wrap them around your tin. These ones are nice and easy because they have Velcro. Some other ones have like a little belt loop, and other ones have like hairpins almost that you clip to put it on. So I always put 2 on. And then when you fill your cake tin with batter, don't fill it all the way to the top. It's better to use 2 tins and only fill them sort of a third full or like halfway full with batter, because again your cake will bake faster and more evenly than if you filled it all the way to the top. You would need a lot longer to bake your cake, and the longer you bake it, the drier the outside will come and the more of a dome you will have. And like I say, your baking pin right in the middle. So if you line your tin with baking paper like in the other video, you would take the circle, lift it up, push this right through the middle, and then put your circle of baking paper in there, and you'll have the heating core in the middle. If you don't have a heating or the baking nail, don't stress about it. I find that for small tins like 6, 7 or 8 inches, it works well without the nail. It's really for bigger cakes or the square tins that the heating core works really well. So to recap, good tins, line them with baking paper, use some baking strips, place your rack really low in your oven, and don't fill your tins all the way to the top. Rather use two tins and only fill them a third or halfway up. Okay, let me know how you go with that, and show me, send me some photos of your flat topped cakes. Have fun.